Missing the angle. The news broke yesterday that Andrew Cuomo's office retaliated against one of his accusers by leaking confidential documents about her. Now, if you simply follow the herd of reporting, the story here is about New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. But this is old news. We've known for years that this guy was a creep. You have to scroll down and read this particular section here. Officials in Cuomo's office moved too swiftly to discredit the accuser by distributing confidential personnel files to reporters. This is the real story, and this is what's being ignored by every news outlet. The same day that this person filed her sexual harassment complaint against Andrew Cuomo, the staff of Andrew Cuomo's governor's office photocopied the state employee records of this employee who worked for the state of New York, and then handed out her entire personnel file to sympathetic Democrat reporters. How many reporters received her complete personnel file? Was it 2? Was it 5? Were there a dozen reporters being handed her entire personnel file? These are the same journalists who present themselves as the greatest champions of women's rights, who consider themselves feminists, defenders of women, #MeToo, Time's Up, and all that other stuff. And yet these reporters knew that they were Democrats first. Their job was to serve the Democratic Party, and that meant serving Governor Andrew Cuomo. Governor Andrew Cuomo was fulfilling the most important job of the Democratic Party in 2020, and that was destroying President Donald Trump. So no negative news about Andrew Cuomo would ever be reported factually. The angle was they had to hide his actual record on putting COVID patients into nursing homes with your grandma. That's the real story and the real scandal. Ask yourself why. Why wasn't this news over a year and a half ago? Because beating Trump was more important than protecting the rights of these women. These reporters, they eagerly jumped at the chance to help a Democrat politician destroy powerless women. Not one of these reporters that was handed this personnel file of this woman put their hand up and said, "Whoa, I'm a champion of women's rights. It would be wrong for me to accept a personnel file showing this woman's resume, showing her friends and family, anyone else that she listed as friends or family, as required when she applied for this job. It would be wrong of me to accept this personnel file, Governor." Instead, these reporters, every single one of them, eagerly grabbed the file handed out at Cuomo's office. None of them objected. None of them had any moral qualms about participating in this crime. So if you actually look at this story, what's the angle? The angle is the reporters who were handed the personnel file were the criminals. They engaged in criminal conduct, and they did it cheerfully, and they did it without regret, and they're only upset now that they're being named here in this report. Think about how the media presents an angle for the story they want. When President Donald Trump asked whether the Wuhan flu originated in China from a lab, the order went out to the entire news media to attack Donald Trump for his xenophobia. You were not supposed to ask this question.
Why do you keep calling this the Chinese virus? There are reports of dozens of incidents of bias against Chinese Americans in this country. Your own aide, Secretary Azar, says he does not use this term. He says ethnicity does not cause the virus. Why do you keep using this? A lot of people say it's racist.
It's not racist at all.
So the racist here is ABC News and their racist partisan staff. We simply assumed the news media hated Trump because Orange Man bad, and that was missing the angle also. The angle is much more basic. The Chinese Communist Party spent cold, hard cash paying the New York Times, the LA Times, all Washington Post, these different news agencies that wanted to have bureaus in China. All of these different organizations had something to lose if they reported negatively about the Chinese Communist Party's cover-up of what happened in Wuhan province. It was all about money. And it was just a bonus that worthless reporters like this one from ABC News got to bash Donald Trump as racist and xenophobic in the process. Democracy died in darkness. Reporters love money, and they don't care about the facts if you drop a bucket of Chinese cash in their laps. Why do so many people risk their lives to flee a controlled economy, lifelong education, and free health care to come to a country which has unvarnished, uncontrolled capitalism? If you don't ask yourself that question, then you're missing the angle. Why was it important to demonize this diverse group of police officers in Minneapolis trying to keep doped-up criminals off the streets? But it was important to protect the identity of the person who shot Ashley Babbitt in the neck. Why do Democrat protesters get green armbands and the royal treatment, yet non-Democrats get the book thrown at them by a federal judge when they occupy public buildings? A lot of people make money off of America being a consumer economy where we simply purchase products and our farmers don't farm and our factories don't build. If you're not curious about our foreign competitors who like American taxpayers paying for NATO, mutual defense pacts, while they get completely favorable trade deals from the Democrat president, whomever was selected for that figurehead position, then you're missing the angle. Look deeper for the context. If every person online tells you Orange Man bad, ask them why they were ordered to say and think that. Most don't know. They just know what the herd was doing and followed along. Why is it better to elect a president who lied about having a COVID plan? We couldn't even learn who Biden had as COVID advisors during the 2020 presidential campaign, because not one reporter thought to ask him who those COVID advisors were. Shouldn't that matter in the year of COVID? Biden clearly doesn't have a COVID plan, other than to repeat what didn't work last year. Why is this an improvement over Donald Trump's leadership? Because giant corporations ordered you to vote Democrat. If you didn't think about that in 2020, ask yourself why it was important for others to do your thinking for you. Why is it important that Donald Trump be banned from posting his views on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook? Because it might cause another January 6th insurrection, right? But why is protecting the country from January 6th insurrection type activities so much more important than protecting the country from Democrat-led arson and riots? Because the corporate interests want you under control, and that means keeping people like Biden in office for the rest of your lifetime. Trump was a fluke, where you took control of your destiny by voting for a proven businessman outside of the system. And there are people who lose money when you control your own life. Why did this happen? Because you missed the angle. They want you to keep missing that angle because that makes them money and keeps the elite in power. So when the entire news media picks up a bright shiny object and points at it and says, "Look at this here, focus on this," ask yourself why. What angle are you missing? And remember that there are people whose only job is to ensure that you miss the angle. Thank you.